PBA bowlers are so good that we often take it for granted they're going to make every single shot. However, even the absolute best miss shots from time to time, and often it can be the so-called easy shots that are missed, particularly under intense pressure. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the biggest misses by PBA bowlers. Now, all of these misses do have something in common. They are all in situations where the pressure is immense and the player in question either needs to make a so-called easy spare or simply get good count, but they end up missing. Now, when I say easy shot, of course nothing is easy, especially when you're on television and you need to spare a single pin to win the match. But at the same time, these pros are so used to playing under this sort of pressure that you would still expect them to convert these so-called easy chances to win. Hopefully you'll see what I mean as we take a look at some examples of the biggest and most shocking misses. We start today's video with Mika Koivuniemi. Major Mika is from Finland and had great success on the tour, winning 3 majors and 14 PBA titles in total. His third major came at the 2011 Tournament of Champions, and about 1 month later he was trying to win his 4th major at the 2011 US Open. He was in the championship match where he faced Norm Duke for the title. It was a close match throughout, but Mika had a 24-pin lead after the 9th frame and was working on a 4-bagger. It looked like he had all but sealed his victory when Norm Duke struck out for a 225. This left Mika needing 16 pins in the 10th frame. He made a decent shot in the first shot of the 10th, but left a 10 pin. All he had to do was make the spare and the title was pretty much his. But to everyone's complete surprise, especially Norm Duke's, he missed the 10 pin, and this was one of the most shocking moments in PBA history. Although many bowlers do struggle with the corner pins, for a pro it's a very routine shot, but as mentioned earlier, pressure does strange things to even the best, and it caused Mika to just overthrow it slightly and it went in the gutter and he handed Norm Duke the title. Number 2. Ballard Jr. Probably one of the most famous misses in PBA history, Ballard Jr. was facing up against Pete Webber in the title match of the 1991 Fair Lanes Open. Dell needed 2 strikes and 7 pins in the 10th to take the title. He gets the first 2 strikes and you can see he was playing a pretty wide line and just started to flirt with the gutter. In the last shot he needed just 7 pins, but somehow ended up throwing it down the gutter and lost the match. Now this left many people wondering why he didn't just throw the ball straight down the middle as hard as he could. 7 pins is no gimme however, and there's every possibility he could have left a big split trying to throw it down the middle, but in hindsight I'm pretty sure Dell wished he had taken that course of action. This was a shocking miss and even Pete couldn't quite believe what happened. Number 3. Chris Barnes. Over to Chris Barnes now, who faced Michael Haugen Jr. in the title match of the 2008 Tournament of Champions. Barnes had complete control over the match and had a 41-pin lead after the 8th frame. He was in cruise control and just needed to mark in the 9th and 10th frame and the title would be his. He left a 10 pin in the 9th and what should have been a routine shot, well, it turned out to be a big miss that opened the door for Haugen to get back into the match, and Haugen jumped right through that door and struck out, forcing Barnes to now double in the 10th. Unfortunately for Barnes, he was unable to do so and lost the match. This single pin miss in the 9th was huge and ultimately cost Barnes the title. Number 4. Sean Rash. Sean Rash had some TV struggles early on in his career, especially when it came to spares, where he kept missing by some distance. Here's our first big miss from Sean in the 10th frame of the semi-final match against Ronnie Russell. He struck in the first shot of the 10th but then went high, leaving the 3-6-9-10. He missed everything, and this was a bad mistake because it virtually handed Russell the match, as he now needed only 8 pins to advance. If Sean Rash had got good count, even if he had opened and just say got 3 out of the 4 pins, it would have forced Ronnie Russell to mark in the 10th. You can see that Ronnie actually ended up missing the spare in the 10th frame, so those pins Rash threw away certainly made a huge difference. Now fast forward to 2019, and it's the championship match where Rash is facing Dick Allen. Sean just needs to spare the 10 pin to win the title, but misses it inside. This gives Allen a chance to win if he can double and get 8 pins. Now Sean was actually a little unfortunate as Alan got a huge break in the first shot, somehow tripping the 2-pin. He then threw a decent second shot, but still needed 8 pins for the win. You can see he got some more good fortune as he nearly left 7 pins but somehow just tripped the 10-pin. But either way, Rash had a chance to put this one away with a single pin spare, and that 10-pin miss cost him the title. Number 5. Matt Russo. Our last big miss on this list comes from Matt Russo, who was facing Sean Rash at the Midwest division of the Players' Championship. This match is probably most famous for Sean Rash's angry outburst about the use of urethane balls, so I think many slightly overlooked the fact that Russo did throw this one away. He needed just 9 pins in the 10th frame to win, but went right through the nose for a 5 count. This meant he now needed to spare this split to win, but what's interesting is he actually left the exact same split in the previous frame and actually managed to make the spare. So it wasn't beyond the realms of possibility for him to make it twice in a row. He failed to spare the tough split however and handed Rash the win. Going through the nose on the first shot is a huge miss given the fact he needed just a 9 count to win. Seeing a PBA pro miss an easy shot is quite satisfying in the sense that you realise that nobody is perfect and even the absolute best can be affected by extreme pressure. In this video we're going to look at some of the biggest misses made by PBA pros. Now most of these misses are in situations where the pressure is at the highest level. However, these pros are so experienced you would still expect them to convert these chances to close out the match. There are 4 misses for us to analyse in this video, so let's start with number 1, Rhino Page. Now we head to the 2009 Tournament of Champions where Rhino Page is seeking his first ever major championship and is looking to do so by defeating Patrick Allen in the title match. Both players were on fire in this match. Patrick Allen got a great break in the second shot of the 10th frame and managed to strike out for a 267. However, Rhino Page could strike out for a 279 still, so Rhino had to have the first strike in the 10th frame to have a chance to win. So the pressure was intense with his first major title on the line. He looked locked in and super focused all match and he managed to get the first strike. This now meant he just needed at least a 9 spare. Let's take a look at this next shot. You can see it was wide of target, but also it just didn't seem to come off his hand correctly. This meant that he lost the match regardless of whether he made the spare or not. This was one of the most shocking misses in recent PBA history. It's the fact that Rhino was so focused and in the zone, and he did the hard work by getting the first strike in the 10th. Unfortunately though, this miss would mean he would have to continue his quest for his first major title. Number 2, Sean Rash. Sean Rash has certainly had his fair share of missed spares on television, and more often than not, it's been during crucial moments of the match. This miss took place during the 2023 Roth-Holman doubles tournament. It was the championship match and Sean Rash was partnered with Matt Ogle and they were taking on Paki Hanaran and Mitch Hoope, and Rash stepped up in the 8th with a 21 pin lead. He went light and left the 2-4-8 and on the spare the ball overhooked and he missed the 2 pin, taking out the 4 and 8 pin. This let their opponents right back into the match. However, Rash had a chance to redeem himself in the 10th frame. He left a 10 pin off a fairly decent shot, and if he spared it, it would mean his opponents would need to strike in the 10th frame to win. However, Rash completely missed the 10 pin, and we've seen him do this exact same thing in the 10th frame of a title match and it cost him dearly. Well now, Paki just needs a mark to win the title for his team and he gets a strike in the first shot of the 10th. 2 misses in 2 consecutive frames from Rash proved extremely costly and really did lose them the match. Number 3, Randy Peterson. Everybody put your hand up for this one. It was 1994 at the Tournament of Champions and Randy was facing Pete Weber in match number 2. It was extremely close throughout, so close that it was even after 8 frames. In the crucial 9th frame, Randy threw the ball inside and it crossed over going Brooklyn and he left the 5 pin. Now, as we all know, nobody ever misses the 5 pin and of course, nobody wants the embarrassment of being the guy to miss a 5 pin on TV. But you guessed it, Randy completely misses this one. It looked like he tried to go straight at it but missed left, and if it wasn't for his stone 8-pin, this could have ended up being Randy's worst ever moment on TV. But the most surprising thing is that this miss didn't actually cost Randy the match. Pete had a nightmare in the 10th frame going through the nose for a 5 count and then threw his second shot in the gutter, meaning Randy just needed a spare to advance in the 10th frame. So although it all worked out for Randy in the end, this miss is definitely something I'm sure he'd like to forget. Number 4. Shannon O'Keefe. Our final miss on this list comes from Shannon O'Keefe at the Women's US Open in 2022. It's match number 2 and Shannon is playing Erin McCarthy, and as this is the US Open, these lanes are a challenge. Erin played a solid game shooting a 220. This meant that Shannon needed 2 strikes and 8 pins in the 10th frame to advance to the next match. He nails the first shot and then gets a little bit right but manages to carry with a lighter hit to get the double. Half the job is done, but she still needs to make one more good shot and get 8 pins. But her next shot is way inside right off her hand, and on this pattern it's never going to hold and she goes through the nose, leaving the Greek church. This means she loses the match by 2 pins, just when everyone thought she'd done enough to win. It's a pretty hard miss to take after stepping up and throwing 2 pretty good shots to get the hard part done. And on another day, she might have got away with this one. You know, she could have gone through the nose and tripped anything and got lucky. But it wasn't to be for Shannon, and this miss unfortunately cost her the match. It's sometimes very easy to forget that professional bowlers are human. We're so used to them striking regularly and making spares with ease that we forget the fact that these bowlers are human and therefore they do miss. And when you're on television playing for a title, the pressure can affect even the best bowlers in the world. And later on in this video, we will see some examples of just what pressure can do to your mind. I've done 2 previous videos of this series where we look at some of the worst misses by PBA pros. These are generally what you would consider easy shots for a pro under normal circumstances, and most of them ended up costing that player a PBA title. So in part 3, we're going to look at some more misses, and some of these were shocking and very unexpected. There are 4 misses on today's list, so let's jump straight in with number 1, EJ Tackett. EJ Tackett has had his struggles on TV in the past, but it appeared that he'd put these demons to bed after a fantastic showing in 2023 when he won 5 titles. At the end of the season, the PBA Tour Finals took place and included the top 8 bowlers on the points list. They were split into 2 groups and would play a step ladder where one player from each group would advance and then face off against each other for the title. EJ was playing the final match in his group against Carl Troop. They would play 2 one-game matches, and EJ won the first match and had a great chance to close out match 2 and advance to the finals. However, he left a 10-pin in the 10th frame and needed to spare it and get good count to win. Shockingly, he missed it. Normally, he would have made this with his eyes closed, but with the pressure at its highest, this miss cost him match 2 after Troop doubled in the 10th frame. The result was that at 1 game each there would be a 9th and 10th frame roll-off, and Troop managed to prevail, and Tackett fans will hope that this miss doesn't haunt him in the future. Number 2, Joe Ciccone. Time to look at a doubles tournament now, the 2008 PBA Exempt Doubles Classic. It was the championship match, and Danny Wiseman and Mike Fagan were the pairing that gained the number 1 seed, and they faced Ronnie Russell and Joe Ciccone, who had climbed the ladder and were trying to win a PBA title. It was a fantastic start for Fagan and Wiseman as they had the first 5 strikes, and their opponents were struggling too after a couple of 10 pins and then a split in frame 4. However, Fagan missed the pocket in frame 6, but he was incredibly unlucky not to make the conversion. Russell and Ciccone fought back to cut the lead to 20 pins, then Fagan missed the 3-6-10, which really opened the game right up. Now we have a situation where Ciccone is up in the 10th frame and he must strike and get a 9 spare to win the title. He put down a great shot to get the strike, And just look at the faces of Fagan and Wiseman, who seemed sure this was now the end for their title hopes. But the next shot was thrown a little too wide, and this now changed everything, as they could only tie with a spare. And you might be expecting him to chop this spare, but he didn't even get close, missing way to the left, and this was nothing but extreme pressure that caused him to miss by this distance. This was pretty hard to watch, and I definitely feel for Ciccone, and Fagan and Wiseman were in disbelief about how this match ended, and this was actually Fagan's first ever PBA title. This really was a shocking miss, but again, it just shows you what pressure can do to bowlers everywhere. It doesn't matter how good you are, when the pressure is at its highest, anybody is capable of making these kind of errors. Number 3. Josh Blanchard. This next miss came at the PBA playoffs during the first round, which featured Josh Blanchard and Wes Malott. Blanchard held around a 15-pin lead until Malott managed to double in the 7th and 8th frames to essentially even things up. Malott finished with a 212, and this meant that Blanchard had to double and then get 9 pins in the 10th to win. He put down 2 nice shots and got the hard work done to get the double, but it was the fill shot that ended in disaster, as he ended up missing the headpin completely and only knocked down 7 pins. This meant it wasn't even enough to force a roll-off, and he lost the match by a single pin. After getting the hard part done, it was such a shame that this poor shot came at the exact wrong time. It was just so much wider than the previous shot and just had no chance of coming back. It's always difficult when you have 8 or 9 pins needed to win, because you can't exactly just pick up a spare ball and throw it straight down the middle. You're basically forced into playing your normal strike shot, and unfortunately these kind of things can happen. He could have easily come a little bit inside and gone through the nose and left a split, but on this occasion this miss did cost him the win. Number 4. Marshall Holman. Our final miss is a very famous one that comes from a legend of the game. I'm referring to Marshall Holman. This particular miss was during the 1990 ABC Fall Classic, and Holman on his first shot threw the ball into the gutter. He was working on a strike, so it wasn't a complete disaster until he threw the second shot in the gutter as well for an incredible double gutter. I have no idea how this happened, because he wasn't playing a particularly wide line, and what makes this even more incredible is that he had already thrown a gutter ball in the previous match. I can only assume that the outside part of the lane was just completely out of bounds, and that it only took you to push the ball slightly out and the ball was just gone, because I can't think of any other explanation that would have resulted in Marshall throwing a double gutter. But this double gutter was something else, and he would go on to lose this match. I'm not sure the crowd could quite believe what had happened, and to be honest, even after all this time looking at it now, I can't quite believe that this happened. I think there has been 1 or 2 other instances of double gutters on TV, but certainly Holman's is the most famous. And that is going to bring us to an end of this list and today's video. As always, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. Let me know which of these misses was your favourite, and also let me know if there's any other famous misses that you think I might have left out. Don't forget as well that I've done 2 previous parts to this series, so if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, then go ahead and give those a watch as well. I would say that probably my favourite from this list would have been from the doubles tournament, as it was just such an unexpected and incredible match, and I like the fact that Wiseman and Fagan got out to such an early lead, and it looked like after 5 frames that it was all over, but their opponents managed to fight back, but then just fell short at the final hurdle. If we're honest, we tend to expect the very best from professional bowlers. If they've won multiple titles, not only have they had to perform very consistently through a sometimes grueling tournament, they've also had to come up big in clutch moments. But even the best in the world make mistakes. We all know this, and yet it still seems to be a shock when it happens. We're so used to seeing the top pros perform to a very high level when they get on TV, that when they make a bad miss, particularly in crucial situations, it's still very surprising. So the question is, what are the worst misses ever in PBA history? Well, that's what I've been aiming to find out, and I've got a new part of this series today, and we're going to look at some more bad misses from PBA pros. So let's start off this listing with number 1, Bill O'Neill.
He doesn't like it, and he shouldn't.
Yeah, big whip right.
Nope. Oh, wow. That's really going to hurt. He hates this one, and it's the same shot.
Right side of the head pin, ricochet into the 610. Unbelievable.
How is that possible?
It took Bill O'Neill a long while to win on tour. For quite a few years, he was known as one of the best players to have never won a PBA title, but since he's broken through, he's been a very consistent performer on the tour over the years, and even though he's now in his 40s, has still proved very capable of winning on tour. His last singles win came at the Players' Championship at the start of 2024, and also 2024 was a good season for him. He also made the telecast for that year's US Open, and in the opening match played EJ Tackett. O'Neill got off to a really hot start, getting the front 6, which gave him a lead of 44 pins, but in the 7th frame missed right and left a washout. He missed it, getting only 1 pin, and the loss of count here did hurt him. His lead had shrunk to just 12 after 8 frames. As he went into the 9th frame, he was working on a strike that again, on the same lane, on the left lane, went right and left the same washout. And to make things even worse, he went and did the exact same thing, taking out just the head pin. This was a huge mistake, and both of these misses proved to be very costly, but Tackett didn't exactly take advantage of this himself. He needed a double in the 10th to shut out O'Neill, got the first one, but then left a horrible split here, which was a 4 count. Luckily he didn't lose count, but it meant that O'Neill had a chance to somehow win this match after those 2 mistakes. He needed a double, got the first strike, but then left a 10 pin. This meant that Tackett would advance. It was very surprising for O'Neill to make those 2 mistakes on the same lane and taking out that head pin in the same way both times, and those misses proved very costly. Number 2, Jason Belmonte.
Way right of target. Are you kidding me?
I should have stopped. Why didn't I? I can't keep up. Why didn't I?
Patrick Dabrowski advances.
Jason Belmonte had a very uncharacteristic miss at the 2024 USBC Masters. Belmonte was the 3 seed, and in his opening match did defeat Sam Cooley, and then in the semi-final match would play Patrick Dombrowski. It wasn't exactly smooth sailing for Belmonte. There was a lot of 9s, didn't really get into much of a flow, but Dombrowski himself wasn't exactly firing. A 5 count in the 6th from Dombrowski, which he did almost spare to be fair, gave Belmonte a 6-pin lead. But again, Belmonte couldn't really get anything going to extend that lead, and the match was very close throughout. It looked like Dombrowski though had thrown this away. He was working on a double up by 6 heading into the 9th, but left the 2-10, which he missed, and then left a bit of an unfortunate 7-pin in the 10th, which then meant that Belmonte just needed a mark to advance. Now, we've seen Belmonte in these situations time and time again, and to be honest, during his prime, you just wouldn't bet against him. You would pretty much put your house on him getting a mark in this kind of situation. It's part of the reason that he's won 15 majors, because in these situations, he was just flawless. But in this case, things went wrong. The ball never recovered in the 10th, and he ended up leaving the 8-10. He did say that he felt he should have stopped, so perhaps something didn't feel quite right. Perhaps there was a distraction. There was something going on there. If memory serves, actually, I seem to remember somebody had dropped something in the crowd. There was some noise or something, and he felt he should have stopped, but he didn't, and he left the split and an open frame, which meant Patrick Dombrowski would make it through to the title match. Like I said, a really unexpected miss from Belmonte here. And although Dombrowski would play in the title match, he would lose to Deron Booker. Number 3, Shota Kawazoe.
Come on, come on.
There you go. Not yet.
Oh.
And he's moving on.
Shota Kawazoe has long been on the PBA tour and has long been one of, if not the best bowler to have come out of Japan. And although he's come close a number of times, he's never actually won a PBA title. He came very close very recently, actually in 2024 at the Shark Championship when he was the 1 seed, but he would lose this match in a pretty close one to EJ Tackett, so his hunt for his first PBA title continues. But this miss came at the 2018 60th Anniversary Classic. He won the opening match of the telecast against Matt Sanders, and then match number 2 faced Kevin Williams. This was a very close one throughout. Both players played well. Kevin Williams ended up finishing with a 229, which meant that Shota just needed a mark in the 10th, put down a pretty decent shot that left a 10-pin, which should be a routine spare for a pro. But he actually missed it, putting it inside, and it meant that Williams would advance. I'm sure you can see why this made the list, and it was heartbreaking for Shota, who, like I said, still is looking for his first PBA title. Even though he's yet to win on the PBA, on the Japanese professional tour, he has won, well, as of 2019, 18 titles. Now, I did try and find out and see how many Japanese titles he currently has as of 2026, but I couldn't seem to find it online, so if anyone knows, perhaps they could let me know. Number 4, Tommy Jones.
What about it, Messenger? But a nice start to this title match for TJ. Oh my gosh! Except for that. The piece of tape, and he probably grabbed this at the bottom, and then as soon as you do that, it's going to be left. That's what I thought.
Oh, buddy. We missed the head pin.
Unbelievable.
This miss came from the 2017 Tournament of Champions. Tommy Jones was the 2 seed and got by Dom Barrett in the semi-final match. Jones was using urethane throughout and continued to do so in the final against EJ Tackett. It was a decent start from both players, with Jones having the front 4 before leaving a 10-pin on the left lane. But this is where the first bad miss came, as he actually missed the 10-pin. This cut his lead down to just 7, with Tackett working on a double. He could not capitalise though, as he left the baby split on the next shot. Jones managed to maintain a lead of 9 pins all the way to the 9th frame. Tackett again couldn't take the lead, as he made a bit of a bad shot, leaving the 3-6-10, which he did spare, so really was in need of a double in the 10th. Got the first strike, but then left a 10-pin from a light shot, and you could see how disappointed he was with himself here. This meant that Jones just needed a mark in the 10th to win the title, and this shot just never recovered, and he left the washout, the 1-2-4-10. He missed it to hand EJ the win, so while this 10th frame shot was a bad miss, you have to say that the missed 10-pin really cost him the match, because if he spared that, it would have been a completely different story. The washout wouldn't have even mattered. This was really surprising from Jones, who is normally so dominant on TV and so good in these kind of situations, but it's just more proof that these bad misses can happen to anyone. Number 5, Mark Fay.
replay. Look at his hand spread. He knows it's a victory shot. Watch the 5-pin. Rockets over behind the 7.
He knew it the minute he...
9 pins are a strike. It's not over, Chris.
No, look at that.
We head back to the 1984 Tucson Open now, and we find Mark Fay, who performed really, really well on this telecast. And just look at this shot and leave during his match against Ernie Schlegel. I don't think I've ever seen this left before. He's left the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever seen this. I personally have not. But he got by this match, got by 2-seed Pete Weber, shooting a 255 to Weber's 213, and then set up a final against Ron Palumbi Jr. It looked as though Fay had sealed this one as he made the 7-pin and just needed 7 pins to win, or 6 to ensure a tie. But he missed right and only got 5, which meant that his opponent could get all 3 strikes in the 10th to win. And that's exactly what he did. Palumbi got all 3 strikes in the 10th to steal this one away from Mark Fay. This is one of the worst misses I think we've seen, just needing 7 pins. You know, it's comparable, I suppose, to the Dell Ballard situation when Dell just needed 7 to win. Obviously, Dell put it in the gutter. But considering how well Mark Fay had bowled during this telecast, I think everybody expected him to seal the victory. And that is going to bring us to an end of today's video. Thank you all very much for watching. I very much hope that you've enjoyed this one. And if you have and you want to see future videos, then please make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Well, that is going to do it from me for today. And as always, thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.